discuss. Yeah. Good evening, one and all. Welcome to the KISS session, based knowledge and information sharing session of KSN Global. KSN Global is primarily an initiative that is put together by the startup enthusiasts and entrepreneurs around Kerala. And what we intend to do is try to help handhold and elevate all the startups and build the ecosystem in Kerala by partnering with multiple stakeholders, both governmental as well as private. As part of KSN Global, we've been conducting various programs, and today we are happy to launch our next edition, the edition of KISS, which we call it as knowledge and sharing and knowledge and information sharing session. And primarily we have multiple programs. Very recently we did Meet the Entrepreneur program, where we got in 3 entrepreneurs where they shared about their journey and stuff and so on. And all subsequently there are programs that we have lined up. Apart from sessions, we also do handholding startups. We collaborate with government bodies. We've been working with ministries at within Kerala to try to help startup ecosystem as well as the founder community, and to keep everyone posted. Apart from programs that are offline, we also conduct online programs, and we have outlined programs for the month of August, September, and so on, where different programs with the taste of and the need of an entrepreneur has been lined up. We have been talking to all the startup founders and entrepreneurs, and what we realized was pitching is a important sort of I'll not say it's a problem, but is a confused state for a founder, because every pitch that you do is different. All right. Whether you look at institutional investors or angel investors, or to your client, to your team, the way you pitch has to be different. So we thought that it would be a good idea to listen to somebody and get a viewpoint to understand how do we do a business pitch. Right. At the same time, when you think about an investor, right, you will find different categories of investor, starting from angel to institutional to up and above. And for each one of them, the way a founder would pitch is different, right? So if you look at, all of us would have gone through a challenge where, somebody will say 10 slides is best, somebody says 12, somebody says 25, and the content of the pitch is also very varied, right? So we thought about, why don't we speak or hear from an expert who is on both the sides, as an investor, as well as a person who has been looking at pitches many on a weekly basis, to share with us basically what should a pitch contain, and how should a founder pitch it for different kinds of fund. Could be a grant, could be a pre-seed, seed, or any type of money that they would like to raise. Also at the same time, what are the different funding mechanisms available for a founder? And also, from an investor perspective, what does an investor expect out of from us, right, as a founder? And none other than better person, Mr. Sriram Sankaran, who has got a decade of knowledge and information in both the sector, both as an investor, as a mentor, as an advisor, and a person who has been listening to pitch to be the right person for today's session. And we're happy to have all of you today on this session. I hope there are a few youngsters who are planned to join, but we will start from here. With that, I will request Bindu to just introduce our speaker for today, Mr. Sriram Sankaran. Over to you, Bindu.
Thank you, Anil. That was a real good honor, great honor to get a chance to introduce Mr. Sriram Sankaran. So we all know him, but to those who are not that much familiar with him, here are a few details about Mr. Sriram Sankaran. He is an entrepreneur, owner of multiple business, including real estate and logistics, board member, advisor, mentor, angel investor, and focusing on social and impact investments and the sustainability sector. He is the chairman and managing director of Synchron Group, owner and promoter of real estate investment and property development group in Coimbatore, South India, involved in promoting residential, commercial, retail, hospitality, micro township, and plotted development projects. He is managing partner of Nadation Company, a 90-year-old family-owned group of companies that pioneered transport and logistics in 1920s in the plantation districts of Tamil Nadu and currently involved in agency, clearing and forwarding, supplies and trade, transportation, warehousing, etc. Managing Director of the Transport Company Private Limited, Charter Member Chai Coimbatore and Director Native Angel Network. He is an active investor and mentor of Malabar Angel Network, closely working with startup ecosystem of Kerala. We are really blessed to have such an eminent personality today with us. The stage is all yours, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Like I said, I'm setting a context of why I am before you. There are two reasons. One, Mr. Balan sir was kind enough to invite me, and I'm very keen to always participate in your group. Again, there are multiple reasons. One is that you're one of the most spontaneous, unstructured, natural outpouring of entrepreneurship, even in the structure and the organization of your KSN Global. I think that itself is a good role model of what entrepreneurship is to be. Not rigid, not tied by structure till it's required at the tail end to go further. And how leadership emerges from the ranks by itself, by natural motivation or propulsion rather than by a hierarchy which is preset even before entering the field. So that's one reason I was keen to come. The second reason is I consider Coimbatore to be an extension of Kerala, and at points I feel I'm a more natural member of the Palgad-Thrissur network than I am of, say, deep down Kanyakumari or of even Chennai, which are so different from each other. And I have a second reason which I would share at the end of the meeting, of not just about what does an investor look for in an entrepreneur, not just the pitch deck, even the characteristics. And I would like to share my experience or example at the end of the session of what the investor or even a business associate looks for in another in terms of certain characteristics. So this is the setting. To go back, the essentials of what are the components of a business pitch, and what is or what do investors expect from these startups, both from the promoters and from the companies. Now, the essentials of a business pitch would cover the business aspect of the investor, but what would not be covered is the promoter aspect of the business. So that we'll address that anomaly somewhere during the. So to start with, I'll just take a 3 to 5 minute precursor as to more as a context setting on what are the type of enterprises. So are we bundling apples and oranges and lemons and your acid lime into one same basket and trying to call it a business or a startup? Because I would like to call everything an enterprise or like a venture, of which venture capital is one, or startup is one, but you also have cottage industries and home entrepreneurships. You have small scale industries, then you have your medium and larger sector, then you have your startup, and then you have your impact in the social entrepreneurships also, and then you have your non-profits. Now, on each of these, in some manner, fulfill a role in the society in terms of creating an enterprise. An entrepreneur is nothing but an enterprise maker and manager in French. It's like our local bun becomes a baguette, whatever it is. So if the duty of a entrepreneur, is it only a duty or the aspiration, is it only the startup, or is it horses for courses? Yes, you have horses, which the ponies in Munnar or in Tekadi, they carry load. Cardamom bags are put on top, 240-kilo bags. These ponies bring it down the bridle path to the foothills, either coffee or cardamom. So that horse or pony has a particular value. Then their more educated, their more educated city cousin is the one going around the lakes and your tourist spots who charge even more. And then, of course, you have these race horses which have heated swimming pools and caravans for themselves. Now, should we club them together? Because the cost of acquiring them, cost of setting them up in our case, the cost of maintaining them, the cost of running them in our case, and the expected outcome and our success in our enterprise, they're not very different. We come to almost the same odds as in a racing circuit, 1 in 100, 1 in 50. So for that one to win, what are we going to convince all our startups to fail fast? What is this culture which tells people to fail fast? I mean, maybe it has a context in the circuitry business in Bay Area, in California, and US. But do we as a country, as a culture, would in Kerala somebody come and tell you, hey boss, you better make a product a success or fail fast and go home? You think you will even talk to this person as a colleague? You will even invite him as a friend for the next tea and biscuit in your house the next day? So we have a basic culture of trying to be successful in what we do. But even if you're not successful, we don't want to lose the capital. We don't want to lose everything. So we're talking about two opposing points. So in a startup, you tell them like it's like a gamble. You put your money on the table, put everything on this marketing plan, put everything on this go-to-market. If you win, you win. Otherwise, you wind up and go because it's other people's money. Now, till it is other people's money, with your money, can you do the same methodology? Are you allowed the same model? So this is one of the contradictions. So what I'm trying to tell you is these 5, 6 animals are different animals, and each of them have a different nature. So we can't give the same fodder, feed, or food for each of them as we would give any of the other. So I think it's very important to understand who we are. So every one of the 20 people who are already not doing or who are in the early stage, I would suggest that you please do 2 things. One, a very serious psychometric test to find out who you are in life. And 2, validate your business to fit it into one of these boxes. You don't want a round peg in a square box and vice versa. So please identify your strengths, weaknesses, aspirations. Use one of those tests which put you as one of 16 types of people, which could help you actually decide that, oh, actually, I don't like the risk-taking aspect of the entrepreneurship. I like the speed. Or I like the profit aspect. If you like the profit aspect, I think even today, I think your single number lottery has a higher chance of making money. That's what it is. So I think it's sometimes good to understand why we are setting out to do what we are setting out to do. I think the why is very important. So this is the background. So once you understand the types of enterprises and the nature of the entrepreneur, first thing we look for is the fit. And then you go into the essentials of the business pitch. So before I go into the components of this typical pitch, let me share. I'm not a very successful investor, but I'm a good investor. So I have good investments. I've made very life change making inputs into some businesses by engaging with them. I've goofed up quite a few times. I've trusted the wrong people and left money, and then I have to run after them even to get reports and qualifications. You win some, you lose some. But the end of the day, I'm not as successful as I would say, knowledgeable out of this, because one of my objective of being an angel investor and a mentor is not to make money out of my investment. It is impact, it is influence, it is the ability to make a change to other people or even in an industry or a sector by being, as they say, a wind beneath the wings, or somebody who gives them a turbo boost or a shoulder to jump over. catapult over. So when my objective is that, then I'm not even to be evaluated along successful investors, because they are very clear that at the end of 5th year, their money should have made 21.12% IRR. In 10 years, that's a minimum they would have agreed. And if it's compound, it must be that much more. So it's good to know what you have set out to do and why. I think this is the most important part, which is missed out. So a lot of things we tend to start are legacy, reactive, accidental, me too. Very few times we have the luxury of actually sitting and taking a scrap of paper, writing our strengths, weaknesses, the resources at our call, and then the market scenario, and then making a business plan. So if you think an ideal business has, say, 5 petals and you are at the center, most of the flowers I get to see have not more than 2 which are well developed. Quite a few of them have 1 which is almost always totally warped. So this is a interesting challenge, because if your business is going to be working capital intensive or capital intensive or money oriented, and if finance was not your forte, your auditor can only help you write books or do internal audit and tell you that there's a leakage or you're inefficient or you're screwing up on your systems. But you'll die in 6 to 9 months because you run out of money. So if that business were to determine money is the most important part, then your skill set ought to have been different. If you're a techie who doesn't like to meet people, I think you are better off in a multinational in Bangalore doing cool R&D work, or you can make one of those very nice, interesting teaching tools and take it to rural schools and teach them if you love science or geography or biology. But if you get into the industry as a startup, there are risks, because a startup involves multiple pieces: finance, marketing, technology, the legal aspects of technology, the economic aspects of technology. How do I make a tool? Do I amortize the tool? Do I buy the tool and depreciate? Do I pay a premium to the vendor to invest in the tool, etc., etc.? So it's a far more complex game, and all the people who have spontaneously, from their own DNA, from their own backgrounds, like I said, out of providence, accident, me too, whatever reasons they have come to whichever points, instead of looking deeper into their business, more often I see people looking immediately around the ones behind whom they think they have catapulted over, or they see people running ahead of them. They don't even know their faces. They don't even know their name, who they are. They might have a t-shirt with a running t-shirt with a number or a name, or they may just have a fleeting back to follow. But you follow them. Whatever strategy you think they do, you want to do. Sir, so-and-so has done that, sir. That's worked for them. They spent only 8 rupees per customer to acquire. It was in a different time frame. It was in a different geography. It was in a slightly different product category. Or the objective of that startup was to build business turnover and not profit. And he historically had large funding. Or he has another business which gives him cross subsidy. That business subsidizes this business. Now, if a company like ITC, I think all of you should do a case study of very rudimentary learning of ITC, how they've used 100 years of surplus cash flows from tobacco to build a hotel portfolio, one of the largest, with even an investment portfolio in Oberoi and Leela's. And then they have this fantastic, India's largest paper industry, a very fancy IT company. They have a huge treasury with very large assets and shares and strategic investments. And then they have their consumer products, both FMCG goods and food. And then they have an agri company and the agri tech business aspects of it. And apart from all this, they make tobacco and tobacco related products. This entire business has been built after years and years of loss and years of business development from out of a fixed, stable, growing income from tobacco, which is an addictive product. So in 100 good years, the entire capital network has come out of the rental or the fixed income from tobacco, which they had built up historically. So can somebody else do their business? Can Godrej, their competitor in some manner, or Marico or Dabur, can all of them set out to become a ITC? Even Unilever can't become an ITC because they have a foreign owner with a more dominant management who wants quarterly results. ITC conveniently has a 25% overseas investor who's not even on the board. And Government of India apologetically owns some 10-15% from some historical unit trust sweep over. So they are not interfering. So the managing directors of the company work on it literally like a owner. So they can tell people, boss, tobacco is going to die one day. So I'm shifting the money from tobacco and building my A, B, C, D, E, F business. So this luxury is not there for mere mortals. I think we should also know. That's why I said who we are, what we are setting out to do. So just a few minute break. So when I meet somebody, the questions I would like to ask of them is nothing to do with the deck. Deck comes last. What I do, and ultimately that is what matters, whether a person finds it out now or later or never at all. The first thing is who the entrepreneur is, the person. So who are you? Where are you from? When I say not your geography, not your education, but like a mix of where are you from? Like I'm a Kerala person who grows up in Coimbatore and I'm into data science. And I used to teach and now I have a startup and my passion is, whichever aspect of security in industry. So this is the person. And so who are you and why? What have you set out to do? Oh, I've set out to do a, say, computer security company. And why is it? So why is two things, one internal, one external. Internal is what is your strength, what are your resources, what are your unfair advantages. On the other side, I ask him like, what are the external advantages? Is it a growing trend? Is it an early adopting market? Is it growing faster than other sectors? So these are the basic questions you want to know. Who are you? What have you set out to do? Why have you set out to do? And that why is very important to me because that determines the nature of the entrepreneur. You see, they're only for money. Perfect. I love people who are very clear that they want to make money. But are you true? And in that, when I say I will make money, will you make money at any cost? Will you take long-term, short-term compromises? Would you fudge accounts? Would you do GST fiddles? Would you do underpayment fiddles? Would you do discount marketing tricks? That's the next question. So would you want to invest in somebody who makes short-term gains by doing these schemes and wheelings and dealings? But would you put your money on somebody who's a schemer himself? Then how safe is your money itself in the first place? So the why. So money at any cost, I might be uncomfortable. But he says like, I want to make sustainable profits. I want to bootstrap. I want a growing business. I want to reinvest my money into a growth portfolio or alternate products. I want to set apart money for R&D. Then I might be more interested in talking to him. So I think the why is very important. So my theory or thesis is these three don't change. The person doesn't change. Where he comes from, my grating Tamil accent or Malayalam accent or my lack of finesse in a suit boot environment or my inability to do a PowerPoint, that is given. That's not going to change radically, drastically. And the why is the most important part because sometimes even I don't understand that why. Sometimes your subconscious has a deeper need. I know people who do businesses because they go abroad for trade fairs. As simple as that. There's somebody doing 50 crores turnover in Tripur or Karur, and he goes to 3 trade fairs every year. I said, do you do export? He said, no. Oh, have you ever done export? No. Do you have any inquiries? Not yet. But last 5 years, you're going every year to 3 trade shows in Europe. Yes. I like traveling. I mean, you like traveling, you travel. But you don't have to make a business case out of it and somewhere lose track of why did you start that part of the business at all in the first place. Like I have a lot of these useless stories from the past. One of the best example is Apollo Hotels Corporation. They're the largest or top 2-3 hotels, hospital chains in India, and they set out with a parent company, which was a private company, which promoted Apollo hospitals. And a lot of the incomes were staying in there, the pharmacy, the florist, the food, everything stayed outside the listed company, the parent company. Then they merged it and took more equity. But the funniest part of their business is the main Apollo, the original only Apollo, had a hotel next to it called Hotel Sinduri, Home Sinduri, named after one of their grandchildren, the founder's grandchild and daughter. End of 5 years, they found the cost of a room in a hotel is 3,000 rupees, average room rent per night. In a hospital, it could go up to 15,000-20,000 if you had collaterals. Identical real estate, same location, same building. They built a bridge on 3 levels, connected the two, demolished the hotel inside, and made it into the hospital. So I'm not saying they're right or wrong. All I'm saying is, if you don't understand, why are we in that business? Am I hardcore on healthcare? In which case, yes, pharma, though it's FMCG, retail, FMCG, online, it could be tech, but it's intrinsic to my healthcare business. Even insurance. They have an insurance partnership with the overseas company. So all those make sense for them that from that particular point. Even real estate will make sense of buying strategic properties which can become large hospital activities. For them to start a nursing school is an adjunct. Though they look like this is education, that is technology, that is retail, this is FMCG, and this is healthcare. Yeah, but they all bundle into the healthcare. So what is apparently illogical becomes logical. And what was originally logical to set a hotel next to a hospital doesn't last 5 years. So I think sometimes it's good to know that particular aspect, because that's, I find this is the biggest trap. And people are either stuck with ego or ignorance, or like of not asking where or not knowing that there is a flaw. Or third is, we have this famous theory of sunken cost. I've already named the company. My objects, they make such absurd statements like my object class doesn't include it. And I already started, I built my 30% product, 30 lakhs. You want to scrap 30 lakhs and go home and start what you set out to do? No, but I've done 30, no? So let me continue to do it. So these are the aspects which prevent you from the larger picture. So my question is also much longer and more in-depth discussions with the entrepreneur. But I'm learning as much as he is hoping to learn. I don't know if he learns, but I have learned of another sector, of the failures, the attitudes, like why is he thinking like this? Like if I'm not engaging with multiple startups, I wouldn't understand that some people want freebies. Some people want to leave college but not take up work. So startup is a good alibi. You can't understand these sitting outside. So when you move with these people as a confidant, spending time with them, you also understand. So like I'm saying, I get my break even on every discussion with everybody, even if I buy them lunch, dinner, and tea. But I don't know if they get a value, it's up to them. So the point is, spend time with them, find out like who they are, like what are their skills, and do they have some dominant, strong characteristics to meet the dominant requirements of that business, the crucial requirements of that business. And a startup can't professionalize. You can't take external team. And after you have an idea which you have incubated, you can't get a surrogate mother, like a wife. You can't go around saying that I'll get a co-founder down the line. That doesn't happen. And that dynamics has never worked. Unless you started equally or in whatever proportion, in whatever pre-agreed terms, as a co-promoters, initially you might do it. But if you bring people from outside, it never works. Like in any large corporation, you would have all seen in your various other avatars. You bring external people, it never works. So the first part is like know the person. And the second is like what drives him. That is the larger motive, and find the subconscious motive. So if you're very clear that he wants to buy 3 years time, write grant proposals and just keep doing, he's not even worth wasting time. And there are far more deserving people who could actually make a difference with that same 10 lakh or 20 lakh with an outcome in a particular industry, which our hard-earned tax money goes to the government and gets subsidized to these who have no intention of finishing what he does. Like I'm at the moment working with PhD Step with at least 2-3 startups. Even PhD Step was wrong. No names. Sorry, I withdraw the name. But in whichever institution, respectable institution, this fellow neither gets in nor gets out. He's hanging around there. After 3 years, you ask for product review, outcome based on project report, stage of work. I'm withholding some amount. It is blocking my funding from even my grant. I'm not able to give it to you because you have not finished your product. Sir, I have the next iteration, sir. It's even a more sexy business model. It's got a fantastic feature, sir. But he's finished. Another 1 year goes for the 6. This goes for 3 years. The 4th year, he says, sir, you gave me 10 lakh Nidhi prayers, no? Now get me 30 lakh seed funds, sir. I mean, at the end of 3 years, if you don't have revenue, you should be, like in the olden days, put tar and put karmuli, chambuli, leti tar, la feather, OTT. You have to call him like, like a goof, not a startup, not an entrepreneur. So that intention itself is missing in the first 2 blocks. So, and the last part is how. And how is anyway not fixed. It's anyway not carved in stone. So how is different iterations every day, all of us in our businesses, how many changes we make as we go. So I say who, why, and what articulation of the vision is the most critical part for me. And how I don't even want to see, because I'm going to sit with him as an investor, ask him questions. If things go wrong, I'm going to question those. If he's missing something, I'm going to guide him. So I think this is a very important part. And this is almost never done. And this is the one which causes those dropouts after pitching, long extended discussions randomly for months and years together. It'll all go back to lack of the authority or the image of the promoter, or the clarity on the articulation of the vision of the business itself, the business description itself. And why are you the best suited to do that? If these 3 pieces are there, I think money is not an issue. It will come to you because it might be a person sitting on your next seat in a flight. It could be a professor. It could be a former employee or your workplace colleague. It could be anybody. But if these 3 are not there, I think all your fantastic decks are not going to help. And to me, the how is least important, and when is a function of that. And those 2 are into future. So these 3, again, like I said, don't change even in the 3rd year. So when people ask me, like, why are you spending so much time with the investee community and not with the angel networks or with the funds? I said, I don't have any use in being a fund, except for the return on my money. But I want my money to do a little hard work and come. I don't want easy money. I'm not going to play golf and put my money into 3 funds. And they give me some 12 to 18 to 24% every year. I put it with Chris Gopalakrishnan, or I put it with somebody else, and then live a happy life. And I can even play golf with him every 1 year. And I get tips from him about his fund in the golf course itself. Even that, I don't have to go to office. So, this is the way I look at it. So when people ask me, I say, he's the only person who's standing at the end of year 2 or year 1. The pitch that you made is not there. Your business plan is not recognizable. The Excel sheet you made, it was originally a fiction. Now it's like a fantasy. Because you keep on changing tables. Every quarter gets shifted to the next quarter. Cut, paste, cut, paste. If somebody is impatient, add higher IRR. Make it more attractive. Add numbers. Show higher growth. We all know that's what it is, finally. So, and the money, whether his or yours, it's already changed form so many times. You, the auditor, nobody recognizes where the money is lying. So the money is not there. The business plan is not there. Your Excel spreadsheets are not there. All your storytelling is not there. Who's there? The bloody promoter is there. So is he not then the center of my entire exercise? Then why is he becoming one byline in the main movie? Why is he only an item number? Just give me a minute. I just put the phone charge. Just 1 second.
Who is there on Oppo F9 Pro? Are you able to listen now? Can you please unmute Oppo F9 Pro?
Sorry?
Now we have got a participant with Oppo F9 Pro.
Just one last minute. Perfect. I'm back. Sorry for that. I had to refix my charger. So this is the most important part, and this gets left out everywhere. So as a reciprocal, as the other side of the mirror, if an investor or an angel network or a business partner or your sponsor or your father-in-law or an uncle were to put money in you, what characteristics should we have on the other side of the mirror? If this is what I want, then why is that never articulated? Why is it always that person has got this valuation, so and so did this? So we are cutting pasting from page 3 in Economic Times or writing these startup stories of somebody else's as ours. So where is my compelling proposition in my story about me? So I ran away from home. It's lovely, fantastic. What did you do? I was begging. Superb. You have more thrift than all of us put together on the table. And from that, I built up, begging arms as a service. And then we aggregated it. And I'm just being frivolous. But I'm saying everything in your life, from education, your experiences, if they are articulated alone, you get a compelling story. You can't be like not sticking out by being something unique or good on that. So that was one aspect. And the other aspect is that business case you're talking about. So what is it that you're good at, or so what is it that you bring to the table? How is it unique, or how is it good, or whatever? So I think that becomes the next question. So the differentiator. So that differentiator is also seldom there. And differentiator cannot be something we add as a facade to a concrete block to make it a green building. The green has to be in the design, in the materials, in the orientation, in the geography, microgeography, in the building trade. So likewise, you can't just build anything and then for differentiation as very, like what we used to call in movies, a title song. Because you have named the movie something, halfway through the interval, there is one song, which is we call the title song, which connects the movie to the title. There's no other connection. So I think that I see more often today. And that is something we have to work around, because I think this is very compelling. And then the third, of course, is if you're also able to articulate this question of, sorry. Yeah. So this is the other part is the important part. Like we said, the three things, right? Why the business? Who? I think this is almost like a one and a half, 2 slides, and there is so much of useless projections, 10-year projections in small numbers. I think it's a distraction. You're not going to grab the attention of anybody. So this was a more generic thing of like how I approach. And like I said, it need not be successful from the point of view of outcome in terms of returns. But in terms of outcome in identifying the business, its strengths and weaknesses, its opportunities, how it fits into the demographics or into some developmental aspects of it, then there's a very great learning. And that to me is very important. And having said that, if you were to take a more classic format, like, so we said there are various kinds of people, and the classic ways of funding are ideally get a customer to become your investor or advance payer. You make a new boiler, so your first customer gives you 25 lakhs advance and a success bonus of another 20% if you finish in 3 months and save him XYZ on energy. It's a new generation boiler example. Instead of going for a long cycle production, non-discovery of customer, no visibility of first revenue, profit is like way down the year. In this, if you flip the model, the first model ought to be to go to your prospective customer and make him your first funder, not necessarily investor. So his advance helps you do the first business. There's a lot of successful entrepreneurs who have got governments, defense departments, customers to fund them to set up businesses. They've convinced them. So this would be the dream first point in terms of funding. The next, own money. You worked for 5 years, 10 years, you have an ancestral property, you're not coming into, you worked in Gulf come back with settlement. Your IT company got sold, you got ESOPs and cash, come with a bundle. Use that if wherever possible, because your equity is far more expensive, far more valuable than the highest returns you will get on your own money in a normal defensive investment. Bank deposit, PPF, mutual funds, your business will make 3 to 5 to 10 times higher returns on that. Then why the hell are we putting our monies into these defensive middle class investments and claiming to be an entrepreneur and raising capital and losing your ready capital in the first place? Isn't that not a crazy contradiction? Just 1 second, please. Is there a meeting? Okay, thank you. So I think this is a very important part. So the cost of capital is not understood because we think of it as free money without accountability. And I can tell the investor to some chaste bad word and say, simple as that. We do that because today we are not enforcing those, we are not highlighting their failures as a performer in intentions. If there are extenuating circumstances, I am very happy. But if your intention was to take capital and not return it and then have a cushy life with salaries, that is not desirable. We are not flagging those people. We are talking in a platform of startups who want to be raising capital, but I'm sitting on the other side and saying that these are not fair. I'm saying that because you're not going to go very far using those any longer. So I'm from the other side of the mirror. I think this is what we want to see. So none of us even understand. We know the value of our business. We know the valuation of our business, but never the worth of our own capital. I think this is a very key learning, which I think we're not being taught in schools, colleges, or in the startup ecosystem. So we have people doing one of the two, fantasy prices or stupid giveaway of capital, where there was recourse to other avenues of capital to do your business. Well, third, of course, is FFF. We said families, friends, and fools. And all of us, and I'm going to throw a very novel thought to all of you. All of us between 25, the youngest 20 college student, to 50, 60. We're talking 2 generations. Let's leave out the lowest generation. Do you realize most middle-aged people have family inheritances on their families, in theirs and their spouses' families, which are never, leave alone, tapped. They're not released till the demise of the earlier generation. There are trillions of dollars stuck there. And it's not even meant to be stuck because these were defensive investments made by the parents in a different time frame when they were earlier in the career with lesser affluence, with more insecurity. So your gold chit fund doesn't have to go after you have gone to an industrial estate. That was your plot in the city outskirts on a monthly payment. I'm not denigrating those. Those are required at a particular point of time. When you've outgrown that, you've done it for 2 generations, and you have multiple generational wealth in terms of idle assets, ancestral properties, and fractional properties, shares and business interests, gold, jewelry. Why not tap part of it to start something? I think this is a very interesting thought, because I see that there's trillions of dollars in like a legacy, a traditional country like India. You can't discuss estate. You can't do. You can't sit with family. You can't sit with spouse. You can't talk to your in-laws about. But do you have any proposal for your children after your life? They think you want them to die. So this is the inability to even leverage your ancestral wealth. And it's not that you're not going to get it. It's like you're going to get it at like 60s, because now everybody lives to 80s, 90s. So you get your money at 60s and 70s. What use is it? And at 40, if there was a plot in the outskirts which you sold for 20, 30 lakhs, you need not have diluted capital. You could have put margin money, gone to Kerala Small Industries Corporation, collected a loan at 8%, collected subsidy 25%. and gone ahead with your bloody business. You don't have to answer board of directors, attend these seminars. You can rather meet 3 customers and make money there. So we don't even exercise these options. So ideally, around the family and extended family, wherever money is, including idle investments. And I think all of us, particularly the older ones who are halfway through an older stage of career or their entrepreneurship, should also review their portfolio to find that are you having suboptimal defensive portfolio historically for historical reasons. Then are you taking business investments on the other side and diluting your freedom and capital? I've seen a lot of people do this. So you can't have both at the same time, because in both you're destroying value. Your fixed deposit portfolio ought to have funded your startup business in another way. Or rather, your in-laws or your parents' FD could have done that. You tell them, Achan, I'll give you your 5%. You wanted only 5%. No, I'll give you without TDS. And I'll give it to you in a cover in your house. I won't give you PAN, TAN, ID number, your KYC headaches every year. So there's a very, very large amount. And nobody seems to understand this aspect. Then, of course, the next is the grant we discussed. And I'm a great one for grant if you're honorable. Meaning if it's used in the normal course of business and with a specific outcome in mind. I think then a couple of grants by themselves are not evil. They're not entirely undesirable. So that's a logical way to start. But since it's a finite capital, the outcome has to be mapped well and captured. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. If there are 2-3 promoters and you get a 10 lakh grant, before you know the salaries and bike and travel and 2 offshore meetings to write vision statement and 2 branding exercises, finished. Your money is over. You're in the same place. Then you go to the next college and say, now I've come to do another course. Then you get diverted. You say, I have to make service income to build my product. Then you start taking all sorts of moonlighting jobs. I'm not saying moonlighting job is wrong. Then claim yourself to be a service company, not a product company. You set out to do a product, and in order to meet your bill, you get distracted trying to do multiple services to multiple people. And there's no way you can do both. The culture is different, caste is different, skill set is different, the way you do the business is different. So that's the next part. So grants are, and the next is of course angel seed, pre-seed, whichever stage. Then again, another thing we miss out is the strategic investments. So I think that is something which we don't keep looking. So who benefits in the course of business as much as in the investment stream? Who would like to hold a strategic investment? All the Japanese trading houses have strategic investments of 1%, 5%, 10%, not even dominant, sometimes not even board. But it fosters a relationship. Like Mitsubishi Corporation would have 150 companies, from insurance, to shipping, to rubber, to tire, to plantation, to rubber recycling, and carbon black, and whatever material goes into tires, your rayon or nylon. Now, what happens is it could be 2%, 5%, 10%, one could be a subsidiary, one could even be a division of Mitsubishi Chemicals. But the functional dynamism between them makes them a conglomerate, which individually they can never do. So we don't understand where the strategic investor could come from. Could he be a HNI? Tomorrow, if you're a aspirational lungi manufacturer, made with the finest cotton, which is very comfortable to sleep in, it doesn't wrinkle, and it takes natural color, it doesn't irritate. Example. Then you should somehow go and catch Mr. Yusuf Ali whenever you meet him and get him, sir, I want to be your exclusive vendor, give me a chance and I'll give you equity, or so some example. I mean, I'm not even trying to be correct. I think that would do 4 steps at a time. I raise money, build a prototype, start building a product, do all the tweaks, meet multiple customers, none of whom I know are my long-term customers, and then go to market and get slapped, backside kicked, come back, go forth, back, forth, capital gone, 2-3 years gone, and the definitiveness of an outcome is gone. So why don't I do a trade-off with a strategic partner? Like my customer or my vendor or my government department, whoever it is. So these are the other things which are often overlooked. So, but to go back to the question, what nature of business are you? what is your personality and what is your requirement out of this activity. I call it currency. So what currency do you want to earn in and what currency do you want to spend? Do you want to spend in kicks, road shows, cool posts, win awards, win various things? That's fine. But you can't get that. That could come at the cost of your revenue itself in your business. Or revenue you have to spend for revenue outcomes, not for publicity outcomes or personal brand building outcomes, or in some cases even political aspects. So these are the other aspects. So I think this larger reconciliation of the individual and the enterprise, the internal and external resources and the gaps, I think if these are not reconciled, I'm not even talking about a pitch. I think we need it for ourselves. I mean, you pitch to yourself, you pitch to your mother, you pitch to your wife, they should not slap you. And some of the things which you take it to others are as if there is no responsibility. I make a pitch, you put your money, there's an outcome, we'll see, otherwise don't ask me. Even that commitment is not. So if you do this for a few more cycles, leave alone drying up, there won't be money on it. And we have done that, right? 20-point program, we ruined the entire Indian banking industry. We nationalized banking industry, made them do political loan giving to people, and that ruined the entire banking sector. This is what we are suffering. We did that with the steel industry, protectionism, etc. So I think that should not happen again. You can't ruin a whole industry in its early cycle after creating so much expectation. And none of our youngsters will ever be able to go back to their coding and testing, which they think of as being very menial and merely earning a bread. Because most of the people now think that to merely earn a bread is beneath. I mean, there's nothing wrong. I'm not being judgmental. If that is the format, then earn that respect, earn that stature, earn the characteristic or culture. That's the only point I'm making. So we went through what are the types of businesses and what are the ways of funding, but we did a lot of crisscross on the personalities and what one looks for. But in a strict manner, I would put 10 pointers. So I will post it on our group so that it's a simple point. The first is the business idea and what is the problem solution matrix. If that is not compelling, let's not waste time. There are a billion other ideas to take out and hammer. So this is the slide which I would like to jump out and wake me from my 4 o'clock dullness as if I had a coffee and say, oh shit, this is something I never thought of. Let's look at it. The next, of course, is the value proposition, the much larger bundle from the customer perspective, all the stakeholder perspective. Then the other trick is I could have a fantastic product, but it could be collectively 100 crores turnover. Or it could be only 100 crores for 10 years. And in the 15th year, it could be 1,000 crore cap. Drones, Indian aerospace, they're very, very long cycle businesses. So market size growth matrix is something critical. Is it a large enough market size for a few more players like me? But I'll play with my differentiation, competition drivers. But is there growth also? Because I don't want to enter a sector which is already a cash, which is stagnant and making fixed money, because then the only differentiation is price and freebies and discounts. Why would I go to an industry which is going to get lower margins as I go? So it has to be a growing market, and the market has to have reasonable size. And I may like to add another aspect of, is my product has early adoption? Does it have aspirational aspects in the same bundle? So if it's a cool product to have, I may not be able to make a compelling story on that. But if it's a must-have, or it makes a difference to have, that could be more compelling. So that's on the market size growth and whether good to have or cool to have, or let's try kind of. The next is competitive landscape, direct and indirect. Most of the times we get caught narrowing only immediate competitors from within our own direct sector. There are a lot of flanking sectors, adjacent sectors, which we don't even recognize as direct competitors, and they could be stealing our. Your competitor in a mall for popcorn It's not another popcorn. It could be some other food product. So it may be outside the theater. In the movie hall, the competitor for certain foods is not necessarily other foods. It could be a better seat. Like you want to spend $1,000, you might spend 500 rupees seats instead of buying 250 seats and 500 rupee of food. So sometimes it slips into the next category and we don't even recognize it. Then what are your competitive advantages and moats? If this is not there, let's not waste time. There's no fun being a Me Too. There are too many players, too much money, too much political money, too much ill-gotten money, too much inheritance, too much free money, quick money. And that money is again changing the color of business. So this money comes at, all the new funding takes place from people who have put those fractional monies into funds who have now hundreds of crores, who every week give four people. Take a company like IPV, IPV fund. They do almost 3-4 funds every week. I mean, it's almost like our old share trading. Like you sit in the ring and say, yes, 2.5, 2.5, 5, you're good, take it. So I think there is this particular last year, when there was this free passage of money from excess supply, which was kind of querying the pitch. I'm again not being critical of the startups, or I'm not talking about a culture, but this is a reality from the other side. So if you don't respond to that, you're going to get shot on that. So the moat competitive advantage is critical. It can't be rigged. Then next is your revenue model. There are so many revenue models. And so what are the multiple ways and which are the easier ways? Sometimes to make complex revenue models, you may not even get the revenue. And then of course, team. I put only 10, each of this I put 10 marks because this is for a typical pitch evaluation in a couple of incubators, accelerators I'm part of. They wanted this to be framed. So I spent a lot of time trying to find out what we try to codify as the desirable aspects of a company. I'm giving out the pitch for the moment. I'm saying these are the components of a company which are desirable. The team is, I should have logically, even from the earlier discussion, given at least 30 out of 100 only for the team. And team is not just about the deliverables, right? Their communication skills, ability to learn and grow, mentorability, open-mindedness, enterprise, ability to deal with stress and change, self-propulsion, integrity. Out of 30, I would put 10 marks only for integrity. And today, if that is not discussed, you don't assume it's important. So these are the characteristics which we said we would articulate as a promoter, if I was a promoter, which would resonate with the other person because, oh, this person has professionalism. This person makes a commitment, he keeps it. This person is an entrepreneur because he kept his commitment, whatever happened. So that gets you that respect. Either a hearing or a pitch or a sample order or an introductory call. That doesn't come from a 10-page PowerPoint. That comes from some chemistry between the people listening to you. Like I said, it could even be a relative in a family wedding. You're going together in a bus and you talk about an idea. And he says, "Oh, can you tell me more?" He might end up saying that I'm looking to invest in something like this, and can we work together? So it's basically the authenticity and credibility of the story also is. Then the stage of the startup and its readiness. So we have too many ideas today who want money. I think that day is over. I have an idea, give me 1 crore for 10 crores valuation, dead. 5 crores valuation, no way. Today, if somebody comes and says, I have an idea, I says, I have more ideas, listen to me, I'll give you 100 rupees. I'm not wasting time. So I think that period is over. So the stage of the startup is important. So we took about 9 points, 10 points each. But if you were to boost the team and some of those aspects, we are at about 120 points, 130 points. Then the last is the X factor. So we have to leave a placeholder for an X factor because each business has an ability intrinsically to be a wow or have an X factor. Some may have it latent, some may have it potent, some may not realize it till the end of their business. Some might hit upon it in the early stages itself, that sweet spot or something beautiful about it, the sexy aspect of business. I think this we have to keep looking, because this together with your more competitive advantage is going to be a major differentiator. And that's the one which is going to get us a hearing from people, and that's the one which is going to get us funding if at all. So much for the aspects of a business pitch, and under that, the expectations of an investor, I think we had enough, not structured, but in a little more loose manner. But the summary would be authenticity, definitely no bullshit. You don't know, but you have to come out with those personal characteristics which we look for. I think without that, I think we're not going to be anywhere. So what is somebody who doesn't have those characteristics? Yes, I may not have communication skill, but integrity is language neutral. My passion or my knowledge, your Malayalam speaking mechanic who's able to tweak an outboard engine to make it run with fish oil, example. He doesn't need to know English or Japanese. You could have Mitsubishi come and invest in it because they throw away 1 million liters of fish oil somewhere in the Pacific. I'm just saying example. So what really matters is not something you need to go and buy or be defensive of. But I think we have to check whether we have those. I think those compelling reasons to leave alone invest in me, but engage with me, get to know me and participate with me. And everything doesn't have to be an investment pitch. It can be a, like we said, order for a sample batch, introduction somewhere, like a door open to do a tender, introduction to a defense department which wants to buy a similar category of product. There's so many things.
Yeah.
So how much more time do we have, sir?
Yeah, Sriram, can we open it for questions? Because I think people will have questions that will be easy.
No, this is what we just wound down with those 10 points. So now we'll take it to questions. And how much time we have more?
We have got another 10 more minutes. We'll complete.
So 10-15 minutes. Perfect.
Yeah. So I think I will leave it open for people to ask questions. Basically, there will be a lot of questions that I have. Before people asking questions, Sriram sir, one thing that I want to ask is, if you look at the domain, each domain has got its own gestation period, right? So if you look at healthcare, or if you look at scientific, like you said, space, research and stuff and so on, certain categories or certain sectors require longer period and longer fund, larger fund, right? In such case, and some of them are probably, let's say, your e-commerce or, EdTech or something of those kind, where probably, the cost of investment is not very high, but then you can try it out with your bootstrapped fund or, friends and family sort of a thing. But specifically for a healthcare or, where the product requires a longer period in time because of its nature itself, right? So how do we, as a startup, how do the startups look at, because, and the cost of money is also not small, right? They need larger investment. So how do they approach, like you said, let's assume that whatever you said in terms of integrity, passion, capability, all that is still there. But then how that startup, would like to get it, to that stage where, he gets he is able to convince the other side for an investment.
So I'll give you just as short as possible an example, live example. There are these 3 NID designers who take pastoral wool from the shepherd community and makes shoes out of it. So they have a institutional business which wants to make high quality footwear at a low price for farmers and rural people. That is their passion. So their money comes from the same product being parceled as an urban product like Tallbird or like Neiman's at 3,000 rupees. So the first one, identical product goes at 900. The next same product goes at 2,500. Goes different sector. So they're stuck in the first part and yet to kick off the second part. Same. So whichever IIT gave them the first 10 lakhs out, one more 5-10 lakhs out, stuck. So we said, like, let's look at who are your next sources of funds. So whatever we discussed earlier, that the customer kicked off. So not for discussion, but it's a very interesting, very radically different, but simple, actually very simple case. We said these are products which are from the pastoral society who don't own lands and who are shepherds. And it's a beautiful story, environment. And this wool is regenerative, it's not dead animal, no pollution, no water, no power. Fantastic product. So environment is good. Then the rural employment is good. So stories are good. So we said, how do we get CSR funds? So just for a lark, we got this fellow to approach ITC and said, do you want to buy our shoes and give it away to your farmers who are long contracts with you as a reward? It's a fantastic idea because you want to lock these people with long-term relationships. And these shoes, instead of those cheap PVC shoes which bite them and scratch them and cause them all those damages, so we want to buy this. So from selling 2 shoes every month, they finished selling 1,000 shoes or 2,000 shoes one shot.
Wow.
Finished, game over. First year turnover 12 lakhs. So now you're at least respectable when you go and talk to a vendor of sole or fabricator of shoe or even a wool trader to say that, can I take 5 bales and not 1? Because if you keep doing 3, 4 every month, when you go back, there is no vendor there and there is no customer there. So now this has become a business model. So they've employed an MBA student on our push to identify in that geography, whichever state, 100 large companies who have stakes in that state of buying and selling from rural markets. It could be seed company, it could be tractor company, it could be people procuring from the rural market, selling chit funds, insurance in that rural market. With those 100, how do we do about 1 crore of turnover this year with about a reasonable margin? And that now looks promising. So if this happens, this is going to fund the throughput. And anything I sell D2C on the site with a 5 lakh, 10 lakh website with limited marketing costs is giving me 5 times, 10 times profit. So the business is getting built from its own business. Just 1 second, please. You want to file on the custody? Number mistakes. Thank you. Okay, now I'm good. Thank you, sir. Sorry, some emergency. So I think these sort of ways, there's no single answer. See, we have the same templatized pitch document. We have the same templatized projections. So how can every business have the same business model itself? So it has to be agnostic. It has to be individualized. That's what I started. So find out your strength. Don't turn back. There is nobody behind you. Don't chase anybody. Nobody is in a race. I only want to do my 4 mile in a minute, for which I need the bell as in Chariots of Fire. I need a bell, 10 bells to finish. Or I need my internal drive and motivation. I should get out of this race. That I would definitely say, particularly for people earlier in the day. Actually, if you do copycat, it's actually not a safety. It's actually a higher risk than you started.
Absolutely.
When I say copycat, subconscious or conscious replication or cut and paste of other people's strategies, hacking, inspiration, as we say, is destructive. So somewhere your soul is gone. You're force fitting those shallow points on your deeper core. So this is my point. So there are several similar models. Another 1 minute only, but it's a live case. There's a person developing graphene. 3 years back, he's been through 3 accelerators. One of them sends him for mentoring, and he gets stuck with me 4 or 5. So I spent 6 months with him finding out what his nature was. Do you want money? You want to raise a couple of crores and blow it up and grow over the roof? Or do you want to build a sustainable business over 3 years? Well, I want to build a sustainable business over 3 years. What do? You have a lab. You've already proved graphene production. Let's make a small batch production. Develop application. Parallelly, put a small supply, 2-3 crore turnover worth of machinery. No, not worth. Machinery of 20-30 lakhs, which can do up to 3 crore turnover in the 3rd phase. So your lab to small batch to production batch. But I'm not putting up these machinery. Only the lab machine got samples. With a sample, you start talking to customers, but you don't take a product and go. You make a solution for them. If it's a rubber company, I take his solvent, mix it up, and take it for a trade route. So in concrete, we've cracked it. We've got 45% improved strength in concrete, co-creating a product with a building book. So game is over. So now I can sit in strength of one application having been built, large capital not having been diluted. In this particular case, he got one uncle, yours sincerely, to tell him, if you don't borrow, don't drive me nuts running after money, you don't abandon your lab and your primary work, I'll fund all your burn reasonably in a calibrated manner till you get my outcome.
Okay.
Get my outcome, the next outcome I'll underwrite. Whether it's a loan, subsidy, I put it in my other company and write depreciation and give it to you here, that's my headache. I take care of funding, I take care of strategy. You be a scientist and do just that. And the story is so compelling. 2 other very large acceleration programs have been on board.
Okay, great.
And all this would be, this is something none of your people will believe, cutting edge, crazy new generation material, one of the lowest cost production basis platform tech with demonstrated outcome in 2 sectors has been built with less than 35 lakhs. So, of which only 5 lakh is a grant. Now this is available to us. So we have to identify a pad or a matching culture of a strategic investor or a person who's from that industry or who wants to drive this business together with you. He is patient, he understands the business, and exactly the word you say. If you're in a pharma drug discovery, there's no way you can have somebody with less than a 5-year pocket to fund you. So all your 5-year encashment angel networks are out of the door already.
Right. And another question, Sriram sir, is, sorry, I'm taking a time from others, but this another element that we have seen, sometimes what happens is the industry is driving crazy in some sector, right? So for example, one point in time, you were seeing a very e-commerce, one time you were seeing a delivery was catching up pretty heavily. Tech was booming. Now if you see, you would see more of EV and sort of a thing happening, So at times what happens is, when the entire industry is driving, would it be not right for a startup or a founder to be a part of that bandwagon so that you can also take up a pie?
I think I already gave you the comedy of a veterinary service company becoming metaverse.
No, that's true. Leaving that aside.
But it is happening. See, the problem is, where is your strength in that, right? No, where is your strength in that?
No, but let me put it another way around, right? So, the industry is so large, there is a lot of room for multiple players, right? Now, when I'm saying delivery, it does not mean that, you do the same sort of a delivery like others are doing it.
Balaji, there's a risk there.
Mm-hmm.
If you're anything after the first 5 players, your cost of capital and market entry is like 5 to 10 times. Whether it's D2C.
Yeah.
So I don't think any of the D2Cs can happen today from scratch all over again.
Yeah.
Anyone. I mean, I can challenge anyone. It's happened as a freak in that time frame. I think COVID gave it a boost. Some sympathetic investors gave them endless money, and they had very cheap digital marketing strategies. And they tapped very inexpensive social media push, which today has become normal priced. So they were a creature of a particular slice of time with those unnatural advantages. Today, if you enter, your influencer charges you 25 lakhs per year, 50,000 per post. Where is your money? They got a movie star giving her 3% equity on future and got her to sing and dance.
Got it.
So I'm not saying it's not done. You do it with much higher risk. Instead of that, I should ideally seek something where I have strengths and I should play my strength rather than try to look at somebody. Like if I'm not good in hooking, but people are bowling bouncers and there is no fielder on the leg side, should I play hook shots or should I duck every ball?
Okay, so to add on to that concept, right? Sometimes what happens is, certain delivery, certain type of service, right, had worked in some other region. For example, let's say it worked in Europe, it worked in US, or it worked in particular part of the world, right? And there are successes. But again, I know that you'll come back and say, you know, India as a country, you cannot straight away apply it back here because we are very complex. But there are certain businesses, certain industries would have worked better there. Why can't we do a replication of that with a change of Indian flavor? Is a good idea, or does it make sense for a startup to go there in those directions?
No, it's a brilliant sense if you have a good AC/DC converter.
Got it.
So don't get me a British pin and there 120 volts and put it in my 240 system. Then I'm going to be always suboptimal discharge and wastage. But if I really understand my market, to replicate the model rather than cut and paste.
Yes.
So rather what I do is I draw inspiration from that, but I don't cut and paste here. I build it ground up here.
Okay.
So that would be an interesting part. I think it should be pursued. In fact, this graphene, which I have been driving the strategy because I wanted, like all my bullshitting, I wanted one test case where I put the money and I ask for the outcome rather than, you know, tell somebody and leave it to abstraction. In this case, we have picked up several. I mean, this is very interesting. I call them either my fencing partners, and he doesn't know I'm fencing with. There's a university in Manchester who's doing phenomenal work. All their work is being downloaded, but you're not doing the same thing. You're learning from that.
Yeah.
And Indianizing it for us.
Great.
Every new application I find is somebody else's invention.
Okay, got it.
But the idea is we don't bring that here. You build a use case, cost structure, logistics monstrosities, regulatories of India, and build on top of it.
Got it.
And actually, this is a good way to go about it, which multinationals don't typically do.
Yeah, got it.
So I think the best example all of us would see is this person called Heel in Kerala, this cosmetics and other companies.
Yeah, Heel. Yeah, Maman. Yes.
He's a deadly dude. The number of rollouts he's doing, and the number of billboards he does, number of launches he does. I mean, his IAM background, his historical pharma distribution channel, all that you leave aside. But look at the audacity of this person. Like he's like a miniature multinational doing rollout, aggressive.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with that.
I see him as I just know him casually on LinkedIn, etc. And I bought his products just to validate this. But what is interesting is I see him, exact word you used. The question you asked, I see him as a miniature, agile Unilever.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, I met him, Mr. Sriram. I met him in Kochi, and I spent a good amount of time along with Mr. Sharad Akid, right? And yeah, like you said, it's a pretty sharp and very different, thought process that runs with it, and it's phenomenal that I will leave it open for people to ask questions because it's running out of time. Please.
Close that discussion. I want to close that as he's taken the larger model of a Unilever or a Nestle as an international player in multiple countries, and he's brought it to Kerala.
Yes,
and
I asked him a question.
State.
And I asked him a question, are you looking at outside of Kerala? And I said, no, I am looking at only Kerala, and that's my forte, and there is a lot of room for me. That was a very beautiful answer that I got from him.
Perfect. So I wanted a case to bolster our discussion, and this is a perfect case. I think everyone here is either familiar or they can get familiar.
Right. Anyone else, please? I see many people there. Yes, Jain K. Please go ahead. You can ask a question. Good evening, Jain.
Good evening. Yeah, good evening. Sriram, sir, thank you so much for your clarity and sharing of your wisdom. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm a company secretary by profession. So just one question to you. We have seen many startups. The basic vision of the startup was to sell it off the company to a better player in the same sector. Even it appears in their pitch deck, in their vision and all that. So though we have many success stories of exit by the promoters by selling the business to a better player in the same sector, what is your take on this? Is it an advisable proposition that we,
I think the other side of So
one more, just
sorry.
or is there other side of the coin that the investors will take it as a limitation of the vision itself? What is your take on this? Thank you so much.
The answer is very simple. You want to do it, you want to do it. You don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. But the person who's asking is the investor. So the investor is making you think on not how you run your business, but how you sell your business. So he's telling you how to build your business. Because my compulsion, if I invest, is my exit, not your running. I think we are at counter purpose. Like if I put 1 crore in your company, let's take a fund putting 10 crores in Heal for their cosmetic business. He's not bothered about this business sustainability, brand, value of the brand, penetration, loyalty, repeat. He's not bothered. Those are secondary numbers. He's only concerned with 3x in 3 years. Who's going to give it? Oh, Unilever will buy you. Marico will buy you because you're coconut based. Godrej will buy you. You have a hygiene story. Or you have a herbal story, so Ayush will buy you. So I'm not saying right, wrong. I'm saying there's a contradiction because the person driving your larger thinking is not your well-wisher. He's a well-wisher of a fractional part of your business which he owns. So there's a classic case of a tail wagging the head and knocking the brain a few times.
Thank you. I got it completely. Thank you.
The curse is, this is the reality. And in most of the cases, it doesn't even happen. Because I ask a dumb question. So what are you going to do at the end of, how are you going to repay me? I go IPO or I get a merger and acquisition. Merger and acquisition either from an international player or from a larger player. This is a standard story they tell you. This is a standard story, right? So they write the script and then hope that it works. I've not heard too many cases of this happen.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Thanks, Jen. Any other questions, please? I see, Jolly is there. Jolly, any questions from your end? Surendra Kumar, right? There's an opportunity where you can, throw up questions, clarify your any doubts.
Sir, hi.
Yes, go ahead.
Vishnu here. Hi, sir. Hello? Sir,
Yes,
am I
go ahead.
audible?
Yes.
Hi, sir. How are you?
Good, boss. Tell me.
Yeah. Sir, I have a very simple question. Like, how do you get all this energy from, and how can an entrepreneur pitch into an investor with huge energy? Like, what can be the energy bar which can be?
So I have to share. I think we are closing with this question or few more.
Yeah, we'll close this with the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I'll share a personal story about what we discussed.
Yes.
Balan sir, I fixed up to be part of your panel 1 year back, and I couldn't attend it because my parents were both tested COVID positive, and I had to drop out the last day.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I had made this day, and my father, who turned 90, I said last month, he passed away today.
Oh.
No, I'm not saying this for sympathy or for condolences. I made a commitment. So we just finished the rituals and all at 4:30, and because I could come at 5:30, I joined the program. And this is the closure I said I promised that I discussed. And then since Vishnu triggered this thought process, plan B, in between that work, we got a portfolio company who's a 3-round fundraiser. So he'd been kept on standby. So if I don't come home by 5, so my office in Coimbatore would have triggered him. I'm sitting in Chennai in my brother's place because my father was ailing with some kidney functions, and last night he was sinking, and early morning today he collapsed. So the challenge with me was, what would my father do? He would have kicked me and said, what the hell are you trying to do here? Whatever you're committed or what you like or what you enjoy, why don't you go and do it? So why would you sit at home and not do anything? Then next 13 days I won't do. Next 1 month also I can continue to work more. So, so sometime in the evening I decided, since it got over also fairly quickly, I told my family. They said, no, if this distracts you and doesn't allow you to feel bad and what could we have done? Sit in the loss or the tragedy, but if you can sublimate it and get distracted, then shift your energy to something which drives you. So 3 things. One, Vishnu, I mean, I don't know physics. I know spirituality. So spirit is endless. You can draw endlessly, and as long as you are really committed, it keeps feeding you. It's only the physicality which limits you. So if you shift to that plane, which is what I try to do today, keep my word, and it's selfish because I also wanted to participate and I haven't had a session for a long time. I mean, it was a lot of build up and a lot of anticipation was there. I thought might as well do it. The second part, and the third part is, why not do what I would have been expected to do by my well-wisher and elder?
Right.
So, so with your permission, I want to dedicate this session to my father, Mr. Shankar.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
And entrepreneurship is about doing what you set out to do as much as possible without excuses and without finding reasons not to do it. I think
Absolutely.
that's what it is finally. And so I wanted to personally use my own personal case of doing this in order to prove that it is possible to do.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Sriram sir.
No, in another state of mind, I would have said that why should I do all this? I don't take one.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, but I'm saying we have this choice in everything we do. To
Right.
make a loss and make a commitment to a customer.
Right.
But to pay your salary when there is no money to a vendor, to your employees. I mean, when you make a commitment, are you serious about it?
Right.
So if I were a person to meet me at this story, I would open a door for me.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I say that, this person takes himself seriously.
Right.
So why don't I, out of some feel good, whatever, give him a chance. And
Yeah.
I have done it to, I have personally done it to people, like people who show extraordinary commitment when they didn't have to deliver in a rain, when he took a personal vehicle and came and delivered a parcel. That was phenomenal. It has nothing to do with the company. It was the spirit of that person, whether Amazon or World. So I think this, to me, is a very important aspect and not sung about or talked about. The human spirit is kept out. We have numbers, we have fancy slides and bullshit, but the spirit of the individual which does things is never put on a platform and showcased. So if I was excessive or out of line to use a personal case, I'm sorry for it, but I thought it's a very topical.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate that. Over to Manoj. Manoj, if you can conclude the session, right? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anil, and thank you so much, Mr. Sriram. Because I'm, of course, first of all, it's a great privilege for me to give this word of thanks, if it means that. And I think your last concluding words, and that definitely should be a great motivation for all these listeners here. Definitely it is. And also on behalf of KSN, also just please accept our heartfelt condolences. It's a formal one only.
Thank you.
And praying to his soul. And definitely, I think, see, one thing which we have observed, I just want to highlight this. Like everyone says, even outside foreign, the other people also about the Indians as such. We are always busy, but everywhere we are late. Everybody is late everywhere, but everybody says everybody is busy also. Now, and this is a tendency where we want shortcuts to a lot of stuff, and maybe that is a reflection of our learning system also, which is rod-based mostly,
Okay.
where everyone is given spoon-fed on answers. Now, when it comes to the startup case, everybody wants funds or investments or want to scale up fast, but most of them, what we have seen is running away from listening to they perceive as theories. Okay. Many of the nice, I wouldn't call it lectures. I don't consider as a good word nowadays, not the lecture. The real experience or the perceptions given by, various people who have done something. But many of them run away from that. They're always looking for shortcuts to see whether tomorrow I can just, go and, take up something from here and copy this and get my next round of investment of money. That is unfortunately the case with most of the time, And, but I think your thing, I found it, I am myself, I won't call. I became a startup because others called me a startup. Just okay, I am now in the very. We call ourselves. I am now 29 at 25, but not 29 at 20. 27 at 25. I can call it because I can start counting my age from after 25 years. Okay, so a late entrant into this whole entrepreneurship itself. We are into mental wellness literacy. I would like to meet you sometime and come to Coimbatore and meet you with my team. That another thing for another day. Anyway, thank you so much taking. And I don't want to keep it long. Thanking on behalf of KSN, and we would like to. We are looking forward to more of your support, and I think many of the company startups here would take a lot of help from you. I think mentorship. I think let us look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And when you talk about the mental health, one of the other reasons of getting into this schedule is not to sit there and you look at the loss, but get your mind engaged into something more productive. And the best way to do it is with when you engage with people and you are sharing other people's good and bad, then you are also that much more comfortable and happy. Otherwise, you will go back and sit in a corner and start mourning something which you can't do anything about. So, again, thank you for the opportunity to get out of my dark corner of the room to come to some light.
That's true, Mr. Sriram, but at least thanks a lot for your time. You spent a good amount of time for us. Thank you very much. Our heartfelt condolences. Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Nice session. Thank you very much.
Bye.